This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, but also getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. You can find the link to our playlist in the show notes. Welcome to episode 19. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is singer-songwriter Indigo Sparke. She's just released her debut record, Echo, which was recorded with the help of Adrianne Lenker from Big Thief. In today's episode, we talk about her experience recording across the globe, similarities between acting and music, and the incredible voice of Ray Lamontagne. Here we go. Our guest today is a singer-songwriter from Sydney, Australia. She's previously worked as an actress and model, but found her calling in music via a chance encounter. Her debut record, Echo, is out now. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Indigo Sparke. Hello, how are you going?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the new record, Echo, which is out this week. It has kind of, firstly, it's a gorgeous record. It's very intricate and very intimate as well. Most of the record itself was recorded in 2019. Now, being Feb 2021, what's it like kind of having it finally out in the world, in the universe?
It's definitely interesting. I feel that it's quite interesting to go back and revisit that period of time where I was at emotionally or internally or creatively, because the cycles of life just keep moving, and it's difficult to not move on to the next thing or to be in the next evolution of yourself or your creative expression. So it's definitely been an interesting thing to stay present with its energy, knowing that it's coming out soon. Because I've definitely had moments where I've been like, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next thing now.
Do you find it difficult to, connect with some of the songs that maybe reflected, how you were or where you were at that time, but now it's very different?
I don't find it difficult to connect to them. However, I do feel that I have moved on in myself from particular feelings that in those moments I'm pretty sure I believed were finite feelings.
Yeah.
And now I look back and feel like, you were really feeling your kind of compassion for myself in a way. Wow, you were really feeling that intensely then. And now you're on to feeling the next thing intensely, which feels like it's never going to end right now. But it's nice to have that reference point, I guess, in hindsight or retrospect. You can look back and go, okay, things change always. Feelings change. Nothing's finite.
Yeah,
so,
it's like a snapshot almost.
Yeah, exactly.
The record, you recorded it kind of across the globe, in New York and in Italy. I guess firstly, does that seem like a weird concept now where we are in 2021?
Yeah, it does. It seems like a weird concept, and I feel more than anything incredibly lucky and grateful to have had those experiences, like right on the cusp of everything closing down. They're like these the most precious magic moments in my mind and heart, like these lit rooms that I can return to where I bask in the joy and magic of what that time was. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was real. It feels like a dream, honestly, now. And I think it's such a strange thing because really none of us know when any of those things are going to happen freely again. And I don't believe that the world actually will return to what it was at all. So it is, in a way, almost like, you know, the notion of a past life, looking back and being like, wow, I had all those experiences and I don't know if we can never have the same experience twice, but a lot of those things related to travel or being in different places with groups of people and in community, I don't know. I don't know if that will happen again. So it does feel particularly strange.
I'm curious for yourself, when you are recording and writing in a different city or a different town, do you find that there's obviously the key similarity is that the songs are being written and performed by you, but do you find that there's a less cohesive nature to the record as a whole versus like if you had have recorded the whole thing in one location?
Oh, for sure. I think it would have felt completely different. It would have had a different energy about it, and I would have been feeling differently in myself. So that definitely would have come through the recording for sure. The recordings. Yeah, definitely. I think environment really impacts my experience of something or my feelings or, how I'm feeling in my experience, how I'm feeling in my body, how I'm feeling in my emotional body, how I'm feeling in my mind. And, that it's all interlinked for sure, I think.
Yeah, of course. The record was co-produced by yourself and Adrianne Lenker from Big Thief and Andrew Sarlo, who's helped produce bands like Big Thief and Bon Iver previously. How did that kind of working relationship come about?
I think it just unraveled in how life does, you know. It's interesting how we meet people and form bonds and different kinds of relationships, and it just so happened that Adrianne and I were, you know, in our friendship and relationship, and then she had been listening to the songs with me, and we had kind of been talking about working on them together. And then, it was just a natural flow of things, actually, that Sarlo came to work on them with us in LA, and then James jumped on board for a little bit, and then it was kind of like many different people put on the producer hat, honestly. A dear friend of mine who I met in Italy, Shazad Ismaili, he ended up working on a few things and produced some of it, and then another friend, Phil Weinrobe, who's worked on stuff with all of them before as well. He was engineering some of it and produced a couple songs as well. So, it's funny how life works. I don't know if there's ever any like true explanation or reason for the way that things come about, but it just so happened that that's the way it worked out.
No, that's very fair. Sometimes little meetings of, because I believe you supported Big Thief at one point earlier on.
I did,
Yeah, I think just sometimes chance encounters like that to, result in a more fruitful artistic project.
Yeah, I think we can't possibly know sometimes the way that synchronistic kind of moments in time and space come into fruition. Like it really, some of it is a lot like beyond our control a lot of the time, but it feels quite perfect and symbiotic and magnetic. Yeah, I used to have this thing that I would say with some friends whenever you would be in situations or in life. Sometimes we would say there would be these things called life's tiny miracles or roadside prophets, and they were always like these little moments or windows in time and in life where you kind of get given these road signs where you know you're on the right path.
No, that's actually beautiful.
Yeah.
the record itself is, well, just as I mentioned before, it's quite intricate, and it's the instrumentation is beautiful, and it's very sparse as well. When you're kind of creating your songs and building them, is there, I guess, with having a sparse arrangement, is it to build tension? Is it to showcase the lyrics, or is it like a combination of both?
I think it's purely intuitive, honestly, for me, and it was when Adrianne and I were working on it. I mean, we had an intention for it to be quite sparse and stripped back, but there was never any kind of logical or intellectual kind of musicality behind making it sparse, so XYZ stood out in the forefront. It was more just about an intuitive feeling on something and making the emotion or the feelings or the narrative or the themes of each song or story be accessible. And so it was just finding what worked in harmony together. And yeah, it worked having it stripped back in that way.
I'm curious, just before when you said about it just kind of happening and that's how the songs kind of came out, you've said that the record is an ode to death and decay, which is a very interesting way to describe one's record. Was that kind of planned beforehand as well, or was it kind of like a natural thing that as you made the record, you kind of, as it played out in front of you, you discovered that it was about that as you went along?
You know, sometimes when I write a song, I have no idea actually what it's about until I listen to it afterwards. I'm not in my mind thinking about the song when I'm writing half the time, and it'll just come out, and then I get to a point, and it might even be months down the track, and sometimes it's almost like prophetic of where I was going to be heading in my life or what I was moving through in my emotional world. And I'll listen to it and I'll be like, wow, that's what that's about. That's so interesting. I had no idea then. And so it's quite a beautiful relationship to have with this expression that sometimes you don't necessarily have control over, in a way. So I feel that I don't think that I knew that that's what it was until afterwards, actually.
Yeah, it just kind of presented itself.
Yeah, I think listening back over it and diving back into the world of the collection of songs and the narrative and the themes and the feeling of it and what I was trying to without even realize that that's what I was doing, explore, was this idea of grief and death and decay and impermanence and the sheer magnitude of love and what comes with that, what comes with loving and what comes with longing in life. It is all those things. It is death and decay and impermanence and change. And we are all just, essentially dying in every moment, decaying. And that's the only reality that we're left with. That's the truest thing that we can know, actually. So I think there was a certain level of having to face that inside of myself, reconcile that, surrender to it, and find some sort of acceptance and bliss in that space, actually. I read a quote or a line from a book the other day, and it said something like, to separate oneself from love is...
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you? If people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else. Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
To not exist, essentially, is to live in fear, It was put much more eloquently than that. But I appreciated that idea, that notion of like, to love fully, you have to accept everything that comes with loving fully. To live fully, you have to accept death fully, actually. Otherwise, you're living in kind of a, like a bardo, like a middle ground, the space in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true, very deep. You yourself have had quite a musical upbringing. Both parents being musicians, to my understanding. I think mum was a singer and dad was a guitarist.
Yeah.
What was, I guess, it like, and I also think, just a very quick, I think you yourself were named after Mood Indigo, is that correct?
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in such a, I guess, like a musical kind of environment as a kid?
Another song that comes to mind, funnily enough, is a song called Turbulent Indigo by Joni Mitchell. And I think, funnily enough, like growing up with such deep feeling creative artists is turbulent. It's turbulent. It's so, the tapestry of that space is so rich and vivid and visceral, and extremely inspiring, and also heavy and dense. And so that is what my childhood felt like. It was beautiful, but it felt like all of that expression and all of that feeling and all of that creativity and deep curiosity into the world and the psyche of everything and the way things work, that level of existentialism that they both have. It's an interesting thing to grow up with. I didn't want to become a musician. I steered away from it for a long time. I was like, I'm not doing that. I've seen you both do that, and I'm not doing that. I actually was like, I'm going to become an actress. It's so much more glamorous. Or, do something. When I finished high school, I got into acting school, and at the same time I got into a midwifery course at university to do a Bachelor of Midwifery, and I was like really kind of almost ready to take that path and do something like that. But I went to acting school, and it wasn't until much further down the track that I was like, well, this kind of sucks as well. So I'm going to try the singing thing.
For yourself, as you said, you kind of went, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be a musician. I'm going to follow acting. What was like, I guess, a crossroads or a key point for yourself that then drew you back to music, that then was like, oh no, maybe mum and dad were right?
Well, they never tried to, I mean, they actually advised me against it for a while. I think I remember that correctly. I could be making that up, honestly. But they never put any pressure on me to do anything, actually. But funnily enough, I went through a really dark period, and there was quite a big chunk of time where I was in an interesting and quite a dark phase. Anyway, I up and left and moved to Bali and went and did my yoga teacher training. And there was so much kind of, funnily enough, it was like a lot of Indian chanting and kirtan and lots of expats sitting around playing guitar and singing. And I think I got up and I played a song one day in kind of like a group setting, and someone came up to me and was like, "Wow, you're really good at that. You should really do more of that." And I think I hadn't really considered that. I had only really recently found the relief of being in that private world alone with myself and the guitar. My dad had given me one of his guitars, and I just started teaching myself how to play. That was kind of how I came to it, I think, again.
Do you find that there's any correlation between where you go, maybe not necessarily for inspiration, but do you find, there's any correlation between where you pull, just trying to think of the word, like, I feel like there's a place that you pull emotion from, if that's the best word, for a song. Do you find that there's a correlation between acting and singing in terms of where you pull from and how you perform?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I do think there is a correlation between those two places. I think for any artist, there's a deep internal well of a whole bunch of different things, and that well of experience and history and love and trauma and pain and infinite joy and infinite sadness that exists, I think, within everyone. And it just depends how deep you want to dive into that well of yourself. And I think that's the same well from which I personally draw from to, or did in the past, to access a character, even though, in those instances I was playing someone that was not myself. I think in that deep well you can find a certain level of compassion or empathy for any other kind of human experience. And so in the same well, I think I am definitely drawing my inspiration or desperate need to express musically from the same place. It's just more true to me, and I don't have to filter it through, or push it or manipulate it into a character portrayal. So,
which is good. I feel like sometimes if it is almost being used too often, it can come across as like contrived or just too performative instead of actually genuine. So
totally, it's so much more, in a way, it's so much more comfortable being myself, but it's also so much more terrifying and vulnerable in many ways, and awkward sometimes. You don't have anything to hide behind. So
it is that weird kind of situation where if you're more genuine, like it's a lot more scary, but it's usually those like little weird intricate bits that people do find interesting. So
totally, because actually, especially like I find with myself, like the artists that I'm really drawn to in any kind of expression that they work in, or any medium that they work with, I find that it's the subtle nuances and like you were saying, all the quirky little things that are not contrived, that make me feel like that person is more accessible, and then essentially you feel less alone in the world in some way. Because yeah,
definitely. Indigo, speaking of the artists that you listen to, let's have a chat about your playlist.
I found that so hard to narrow down. I asked Georgia, being like, how long are some of the other playlists? She's like, 10 to 20 songs. I'm like, oh, no worries. And then I could not. Trying to narrow down the playlist for my life, I was like, wow, there's actually been a lot of music that's been very pivotal to me.
Yeah, of course. There's some absolutely incredible picks on this player. There's some fantastic artists. I'd probably put them my own playlist myself if I was doing it. You've got some Feist, some Jeff Buckley. There's Massive Attack. There's some Joni Mitchell. As we discussed before, your parents were both musicians, and I feel like a lot of musician parents or good musicians who end up having kids, they kind of impart their gems and their own picks to their kids. How much of your taste is from your parents?
Oh, a lot. I think a lot, actually. My mum has extraordinary taste. She's an extraordinary musician, and her musicianship is really, she's a very, very good musician. So she knows good music, and she has really good taste, and she loves finding music and listening to new music and old music. And so she's always telling me about things before I even know what's going on. Her radar for it is really on point. But yes, definitely some of the soundtrack to my childhood was stuff that she played, all the Joni Mitchell stuff. Mum was on the Joni Mitchell train. Dad was on the Neil Young train. I mean, they were both like across the board. And yeah, I mean, so many different things. Those were the two standouts, which, everybody knows who they are. But there was a lot of kind of off-center ones too. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't put in there actually as well, like Jonah's Policewoman. That was like a huge period of my life that my mum introduced me to her music, and Rufus Wainwright when I was a lot younger, who I just absolutely fell in love with and wanted to marry. Yeah, I mean, so many different things. Andrew Bird, and yeah, I don't even remember who I've got in there right now. But
it sounds like your mum has incredible music taste, just by the way.
She does. She does.
You've included some one or two tracks by a gentleman who I think has a brilliant voice, Ray Lamontagne. You've put Shelter and I Still Care For You on the list. What is it about his songs or his songwriting or storytelling that you enjoy?
I think he is one of my favourite artists of all times. I had maybe 10 songs in that playlist from him, and I had to just take them out. I was really just going to put like a few records in there. Many of his records have just been played for me in some of the more intense periods of my life, some of the more intense periods of grief or deep contemplation or joy as well. I think, I'm not sure what it is, something about the way that he writes his lyrics, the tone and timbre of his voice it feels rugged and raw, and for me it feels like a direct access to like that deep well place, and it just feels really honest, and something about it resonates with me. I don't know, sometimes it's very hard to describe when you have deep resonance with someone's music. It's difficult because it feels like it's almost beyond the the lyrics and the sound and the tone and the songwriting, it's like, oh, your body and your soul just feels it and recognizes it in some way. So, yeah, I really... And maybe it is a lot to do with the memories that I have associated with those songs. So, yeah, I really love his music a lot.
Yeah, he's absolutely incredible. Anyone who's listening to this and hasn't listened to him should, but we'll put that in the show notes. The other one I wanted to talk to you about was Jeff Buckley, Love You Should Have Come Over, which is just, I guess I have my thoughts on that, but for yourself, why was that a pick for the playlist?
I think for exactly the same reason that I just spoke about with Ray Lamontagne. Yeah. When I started listening to Jeff Buckley, again, another one from my mom, I think that I just could not believe how a human being could possibly put so much emotion into his music. For me, I was like astounded by that. And what I felt in that music was that feelings intensely, or feeling the world intensely, had a safe place to go. And I mean, he's phenomenal. He's a total wizard, and his expression, and you can feel him through that music so strongly in some ways. Not that I knew him, but yeah, I don't know. Again, I get like lost for words with the artists and the musicians who I feel it's an emotional experience for me. So I find it difficult to articulate in a cerebral way because I'm having such a visceral kind of body experience. That's what happens with his music for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like with this playlist as well, and when I say this, please, this is not a critical note on the playlist. There are a lot of songs that are very, I guess it's not surface level kind of like happiness. There's a lot of like serious kind of things going on in this music.
Anguish.
Anguish is one way, one way to put it. But I think that is why people connect to it on such a deep level, is because it is something that people can connect with and either empathize or sympathize with, and they click with. And I think it's why playlists like this stand out as a possible favorite for certain podcast hosts, because it's something that you can kind of connect to and
absolutely.
And yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I think for me that's so spot on, and I'm not I don't do well with surface level stuff, so I need to have a very visceral, raw experience in my day-to-day life anyway. So for music, there needs to be something tangible for me in a sense, even though it's energetic and ethereal. It needs to like sink in deep and like lodge in some way inside of me, so that it's kind of, there's something to hold on to there.
100%.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think if it's too accessible, you kind of, it's, this is a weird way to describe it. It's slippery almost in a way. Like
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Indigo, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for being on the podcast. Yes. This has been a lovely conversation. So
thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And that's our show. Thank you again to Indigo Sparke. Echo, her debut record, is out now through Remote Control Records. We've included a link in the show notes to their web store if you want to buy a physical copy of the vinyl. We also want to give a quick shout out to Georgia at Remote Control for helping out with today's interview. You can also find a link to our Spotify playlist in the show notes, where you'll be able to listen to all of Indigo's picks. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Thursday morning, with guest playlists streaming on Spotify at the same time. You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Until next week, cheers.
Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer over time. That's what you'll feel with Boll & Branch's best-selling signature sheets in 100% organic cotton. In a recent customer survey, 96% replied that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. Start getting your best night's sleep in sheets that get softer and softer for years to come. Try their sheets with a 30-night guarantee. Plus, get 15% off your first order at bollandbranch.com, code BUTTERY. Exclusions apply. See site for details.